My wife, 44F, and I, 43M, have been married 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior, and she was a senior. We were long distance for her first 2 years of college while I was in high school and did 1 year at community college. We then went to college in the same city for a year and have lived together since. We got married the summer after I graduated college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was sleeping with multiple other men for the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school, not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college roommate commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, and then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable about it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got really quiet, and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said I should have an honest conversation about what happened at college. I asked my wife about it on the way home, and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me, and again, she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years of college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance, and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed for more details, and she said it was at least 10 different men, including at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I came to visit on weekends and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did on January 2nd this year. Her family and most of my family are telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by my belief that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened. The fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the number of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. Comments. Phi Z you pay. If she wants to do the work to remain in your life in any capacity, that's up to you guys. You should absolutely do what you need to do to feel comfortable with your way forward. She robbed you of your agency for 20 years, and then invited people who had violated you into your life. I don't blame you for feeling whatever way you do. Hope you and your children can navigate this as well as possible, and if there is a way you can live happily in whatever capacity with your wife, then I'm all for that too. Do what's best for you, fuck how anyone else feels. Wishing you the best. Particular Library 618 up. It would change a lot if I felt that she wanted to fix this. Throughout our conversation about it, she repeatedly dismissed my feelings and told me I was overreacting to totally normal behavior. She didn't show any regret or consideration for how it hurt me until she realized I was serious about divorce. Then she got defensive and angry. She didn't offer to fix things in any way until I started the paperwork and notified her that I had a lawyer. I think we can navigate being parents. Our kids are older and I've been putting away money for college/post high school for a long time, so a lot of the custody and monetary issues that come up shouldn't be a big problem. We're also both financially stable and make good money. OK_educator_7097. She cheated and lied to you then, maintained contact with at least one of her fuck buddies, and introduced you to many of the guys that were banging her. That is not only dishonest but cruel. I think you are 100% in the right. Who knows what else she's done? You have no way of knowing. Static Cloud. If she slept around in college, and told you about it and you reconciled. No issue there. But she kept it from you. She kept in contact with one. She introduced you to her flings as friends at the time. That's completely messed up. You are right to divorce her. She lied to you for 20 years. She does not respect you now or then. More info. I've hired a lawyer. He drafted an intent to separate and sent her a copy by certified mail. As far as I know, that's not any legal divorce paper with the state but rather a part of the process to ensure that she has an opportunity to hire her own lawyer if she wants to contest it. Actually, going through the divorce will likely take months. I'm not really moving out. I've been crashing at my brother's place while I make arrangements for a more permanent living scenario. As far as timing goes, the dinner happened on the 26th of December. I went to my brother's house that night to cool off and give her a chance to think about things. We talked several times over 4 to 5 days, and she made it clear that she didn't believe she did anything wrong. If there were any kind of remorse/regret/basic consideration of my feelings on her part, I probably would have waited. However, she didn't, so I found a divorce lawyer, and he had boilerplate intent to separate agreements that we filled out and sent over the same day. Even now, we're obviously not legally divorced, and I don't even know if there is a legal concept of separation in my state, but I've made it clear this is happening and started the process. Edit. I obviously can't answer every question/comment, But I wanted to provide some detail for common questions. The reason I posted this is that my wife and a few friends have been saying it's common to sleep with other folks when you're in a long distance relationship, and that I'm kind of the odd one out for not sleeping around. I felt like I was being gaslit, but I wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I felt it was a reasonable idea to get some insight before things are finalized. After these comments, I see a handful of folks saying it's normal to sleep around during a long-distance relationship, but it seems to be a significant minority. We saw each other a couple of weekends a month during the 2-year college period. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was long distance but not like cross-country. This was not a situation where we went months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were meetups that happened during parties. The subject of me being a boyfriend didn't really come up, so I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything. The one guy we're still in contact with married a mutual friend from college. This is not some guy she secretly messages on the side. It's somebody we've talked to regularly for years. I've talked to him a few times since I've learned about my wife. He said he didn't know we were dating at the time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some folks have asked how the roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines didn't work out. The main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, then went back to the East Coast to have a big party with friends. The typical reception/sharing details about how we met stuff didn't really happen, so her roommates didn't realize we started dating before college. It sounds like they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city, then moved in together. I was open to therapy or some kind of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that this whole thing is common and I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse or even offered to reconcile was when I started filing paperwork. In the last week, she's gone back to saying she's right and I'm overreacting. This is also why I feel like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal, and I'm overreacting. I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want to get one. I don't have any doubts that they are biologically mine, and no test will make them, not my kids. I love them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them are not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years, and they will be my kids until I stop breathing. Final edit. Hey all, I've been reading a bunch of the responses, but things are getting crazy and increasingly unhinged, so I probably won't be checking in more. Here are a few more answers to common questions I've seen. We were definitely exclusively dating at the time. First, dating culture was a lot different 20-ish years ago, and exclusive was the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started sleeping around with girls at my school. For my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never said the word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with the general relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. Based on some comments here, I followed up with the friend who said I should have an honest conversation. She told me that 10 guys would be on the low end and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't think that really changes much. It's less about the number for me and more about the fact that she seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Thank you all for the helpful responses, even those that disagree with me. I will still be open to therapy if she's willing, but I honestly feel like it would be more about us being successful co-parents and finding closure than saving our marriage. Update. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with 2 of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said they thought the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to guys she slept with, apparently, that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in the counseling session but has now agreed it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone, but I wanted to go to a few parties because I didn't really have parties to go to in high school and community college. She didn't expect me to meet the guys, but they were at the parties, and she felt she didn't really have a choice. I still think this is kind of shitty, but it's not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of the guys. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her, and it was mostly one-night stands or FWB. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Her words, not mine. My opinion is that we never said that was okay, and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After digging into this over 2 sessions and my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust/relationship. This shared understanding has helped us talk about this situation more honestly and move from arguing to talking, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now, here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that made me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we went through a really rough patch and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She had expressed that our sex life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up, nothing crazy, just roleplay and like Spencer's gift level sex toys. Apparently, she had been hung up on some sexual experiences that happened in college, that she is not comfortable talking about, and wanted me to try them. When I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty, and it made her think of other men while she was with me. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless but they're still impacting our marriage tells me they meant more than she wants to admit. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She says she has never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We have told our children that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old, who is in college, asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up but admitted to the kids that she was the one who cheated. We have agreed not to share any additional details with the kids. I reinforced that both of us would be there for the kids and that we would be in therapy to help make sure we handled this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, I would fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially stable on our own, we have no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a shitty couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now, and I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings but also motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. Edit. A couple of things to add in response to comments. I know she probably cheated more than she has admitted. Once our dead bedroom situation from years ago and a date with a coworker came up, I accepted that this has probably been going on at some level for our whole marriage. I'm not glossing over that because I'm an idiot who believes she's telling the whole truth. I have enough truth to know this is the right decision and that it was more than just college. Adding more detail won't change anything. In this post, the last post, and in many messages, a lot of messages, people keep asking if a hall pass would help fix things. It won't. I don't believe that more cheating will solve the trust issues. That may have worked for other people, but I really don't think that's going to help us. My STBX and our counselor know about the Reddit posts. I was upfront with both of them about it. I've kept this anonymous enough that I doubt anybody would guess who I really am, and this has helped me process things. In all honesty, seeing both sides of the issue has helped me, and reading the comments on the last post helped my wife better understand some of the frustration and hurt I feel. I don't necessarily believe sharing all these details on Reddit is the healthiest way to handle a situation, but I don't have many close friends I can share with who aren't also mutual friends with my wife, so this is kind of a way to talk through it. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Girlfriend cheated on me with one of her clients at a comedy show, so I ended our relationship. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years. When I met her, I visited a local comedy club every week to try and participate in their open mic night. I had always enjoyed stand-up comedy and being a comedian was a dream of mine. That didn't exactly pan out for me, but I met a lot of great friends and my girlfriend. She was an employee at the club. She was in college at the time and she wanted to be a talent agent, so she thought she could make some good connections there. When she graduated, she landed a pretty good job at a local talent agency. She was working as a scout to bring in new talent. I ended up giving up on my comedy career when I got a big promotion at my day job. I didn't have the time to go to open mic nights or work on my jokes, so it fell to the back burner. I still do love comedy and I visit my friends at the club, but that's about it. My girlfriend and I continued seeing each other for a couple of years before she got a big break at the agency. We were living together at the time and everything was going smoothly. She was somebody that I saw a future with and I was ready to buy a ring and propose. However, whenever we would talk about marriage and starting a family, she would tell me that she didn't want any of that until she was at least 30. My girlfriend was working as a tour manager for a new comedian that the agency was representing. I won't say who it was, but they were on America's Got Talent and they garnered a lot of attention very quickly. The comedian didn't get very far in the competition, but they gained a significant fan base from the time they were there. We had a long conversation before she accepted the job just so she could make sure I was okay with it. The position would have her on the road frequently and she was worried it would impact our relationship. I didn't want to hold her back in any way, so I told her to go for it. It was what she wanted to do and I trusted her, so there was no reason for me to not want her to go. I met the comedian a few times. He and my wife had grown close from the time they spent together. When they first began working together, he was a newlywed. Over the years he and his wife tried to have a baby. My girlfriend had been working with him for about 2 years when everything hit the fan. I had never suspected that they had anything more than a professional relationship with each other. The comedian landed a 3-month-long tour across the country. All of the shows were in pretty quick succession of each other, so when they weren't performing they were on the road. I said goodbye to my girlfriend, not expecting to see her again until it was all over. A couple of weeks into the tour, I was curious, so I checked the schedule and saw that they were going to be in a nearby city so I could surprise my girlfriend by attending a show. I saw that there was one about an hour away, so I bought tickets and booked a hotel room for us. When the weekend of the show came, I made my way to the club. I was standing outside in the line waiting for my turn to get in. At one point, I was standing next to a narrow alleyway with a few people hanging out in it. They were all laughing and smoking, so I kind of assumed that they were employees of the club. I looked down the alleyway and I noticed my girlfriend right away. I tried to look away and not make myself obvious because I was there to surprise her. But then I heard her giggling and it got my attention. It sounded a little flirtatious. I looked back, I saw the comedian she was managing pinning her to the wall and kissing her while her arms were wrapped around him. It was a very comfortable kiss. It definitely wasn't the first time it had happened. When they finally pulled away, he made a joke about how that was his good luck charm. Somebody opened the door and called them in before I could see anything else. I didn't know what to do. I continued walking in the line almost like a zombie. I was in shock and completely stuck in my head. I needed to know if they had ever done anything more than kissing. The kiss was already not okay, but I needed to know if there was something more going on. Especially considering that the comedian had a new baby at home. While I was in the line, my girlfriend spotted me. She rushed over to me and asked me what I was doing there. I told her that I was there to surprise her and she brought me back to the green room. I had to smile and laugh with both of them while knowing that there could potentially be something going on with them. His set time finally came and my girlfriend went out after him to record his performance. She told me to stay behind in the green room because she was going to come and check in on me during the show. I didn't feel like watching his performance, so it was okay with me. I noticed that she left her purse behind when she left. I was alone in the green room, so I took the liberty of going through it. Inside her bag, I found an entire box of condoms. When I opened it, I saw there were only a couple left. She and I had been together for years and I knew she was on the pill, so we didn't use condoms. I knew they had to be for someone else. That pretty much solidified it for me. She was obviously sleeping with someone, and from what I saw it wasn't too far a leap to confirm that it was the comedian. I stormed out of the green room, which happened to be right behind the stage, so everybody in the audience saw the door slam open before I rushed out of it. My girlfriend caught up to me and asked me what was wrong. I replied telling her that I knew she was sleeping with the comedian, gesturing to him on stage. Of course, people started pulling out their phones and recording our little altercation. The comedian was trying to rein everybody back in to pay attention to him while we were fighting, but it wasn't working. I yelled at him while he was on stage too, but he didn't say anything. My girlfriend tried to tell me that I was wrong, but I told her that I saw her kissing him in the alley and I found the condoms in her purse. She didn't have anything to say about that. I went home as soon as I could after the arguments and tried to figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. Obviously, I wasn't going to be with her any longer. Our argument was no doubt humiliating for her at the time, but I wanted to do even more. I ended up calling the agency that she worked for and telling them that she was sleeping with one of their clients. I didn't know their employee conduct rules, but I imagine it was probably frowned upon. They told me that they would handle it from there. Some people shared the videos of the altercation online and that seemed to have gotten back to the comedian's wife. From everything I could tell, they ended up getting a divorce. I can only hope it was because he was cheating on her and she found out. My girlfriend was let go from her job at the agency and a lot of the clients she was managing were given to other agents. I knew she was disappointed with that, but that was just karma getting back at her in the end. I keep finding myself looking back at our relationship and trying to pinpoint if there were any signs before I caught her, but I don't think there were. To this day, I still don't know how long their hair lasted, but it must have been a while.